Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Didi Delgado. I am your hostess with the mostess, and this is yet another episode of The Full Set. I am here with my esteemed colleague, TaLynn Kel, a self-published author and cosplayer whose cosplay has been featured in the New York Times and on NBC. TaLynn is a multimedia content creator and curator located in Atlanta, Georgia. An avid cultural critic, TaLynn has published numerous essays on her intersectional identity as a fat Black femme geek. In addition to writing, TaLynn conducts educational panels at conventions throughout the U.S., co-hosts the podcast A New Wakanda with comic creator Dedren Sneed. Did I say the name right?
Dedren Sneed.
Dedren. And co-created Black Girl Geek Out, an event that centers Black women creatives in the Atlanta area. She is currently working on a short story for the Kamikaze comic anthology, Short Circuits, and planning 2020's Black Girl Geek Out scheduled.
Oh, that's done. You're right. I missed that.
Nigga, I was like, is this current? All right, TaLynn. TaLynn has published 2 books, Breaking Normal, Essays About My Fat Black Geek Life, and Still Breathing Normal, a fat Black femme geek navigating in an anti-Black world. Available now on Jeff Bezos' Amazon, and you can find her work at TaLynnKel.com. She's also available on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. For those who are looking to donate to this wonderful individual and human being, please do so with the links that I have provided below, which I technically didn't provide below, but I'm about to right now because I am a dragon. TaLynn, welcome to The Full Set. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
This is your show. And so there is that.
I'm deflecting.
Why are you deflecting?
Because I think in the back of my head, I promised myself to stop asking Black people how they doing in 2020 because this is a shit year. And I don't know anybody
super
doing
shitty
well.
year.
Yeah, we all just in super survival mode. And so
super survival shitty mode.
But you don't always want to be like, yeah, my shit sucks. I don't want to talk about it though, because it don't make it no better. Everybody
doesn't make it any better. I mean, for folks who want to process, cool. But I feel like what's gonna happen is if I tell you what's going on, and I tell the internet what's going on, I'm gonna get about 4 or 5 other phone calls from righteously concerned people, and then be like, "How can we help?" And I don't know the answer right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd rather keep it to myself. But Thank you for asking because, I mean, it shows concern. It shows care. Like, you know. And I also want to thank you for your patience because not as per my usual, but I could have avoided my tardiness today. But then Egypt's TV was out. And this nigga cannot go to bed without a lullaby. And I wasn't doing it. It would just, I realized I didn't pay the cable bill, which would have been important for this conversation. So, anywho, welcome to The Full Set. How you doing, babe?
I feel like, kind of like what you just said, where it's just like, I take care of what I have to. And all that other shit is pushed to the wayside. Like, it's just not going to happen until it needs to be a priority. Which is
how are you prioritizing
great.
Yourself? I don't want to say during this time, even though I just said it, but how are you prioritizing yourself during this time?
Oh, I had to. So I had a sciatica flare up, which I had never had before.
What the fuck is sciatica?
Oh my God. So you had a sciatic nerve, right? It's located.
I've heard of that, but I thought it was like something people hit during sex.
No. It's not like the clitoris. It's not.
Okay. You know, I don't know, because these niggas don't be out here hitting nothing. Okay, go ahead.
But so, and my doctor thinks it's like a whole other thing, like this whole muscle in my leg, which is the piriformis, the joint that connects your hip to your thigh bone.
Okay.
Your sciatic nerve runs in there, and if that shit tightens up and flares up, it can cause sciatic pain, which means I had sharp pain shooting down my left leg into my foot. My foot was going numb for like you can't sit, you can't stand, you can't lay down, you hurt all the time. And it's from agonizing to not quite agonizing. Maybe I can just sit here like this for a moment, and you don't sleep. like at all. You just be sitting up there being like, I can't believe this is my existence now. So
right.
I had to shut everything down. Like I'm working
You were
from
like, don't
home.
fucking talk to me.
I turned off the computer. I couldn't even sit in my computer chair. I couldn't be in here. All I
Right,
could do was like lay there and stare at the wall and be like, I can't believe how much this fucking hurts. And then
right.
occasionally I would pass out because I wasn't sleeping, but I would just fall into unconsciousness, and then I would wake up and be like, oh, it's only been 10 minutes. This fucking sucks. So
It's not funny, but it's funny.
it's funny because I'm not hurting like that anymore. I'm still recovering
right.
from it, and I never want that shit to come back. And so and I'm just realizing that I'm having pinched nerves that are affecting all parts. Like my shoulders all fucked up now, and it's from a pinched nerve.
Right.
And this is all inflammation from stress.
Right.
Because this is a stressful.
Oh, are you under stress?
Who isn't? Who isn't?
I need someone else to tell me that they under stress because, you know, if I feel like, you know, what I said about the processing, if you were to say something that's like I feel like people always want to come at you, be like, here they go out here looking for a dollar. I'm like, sometimes you just want the advice, or sometimes you just want people to hear you. You know what I'm saying? I'll be okay with my dollars.
For me, it was just, I couldn't talk. Like I couldn't talk. I lived in silence. I couldn't have on music. I couldn't have on TV. I couldn't have on the lights. I was just in darkness and just suffering and being like, I can't believe that this is real shit. My sister came, because she lives down here too, and took me to an acupuncturist and a massage therapist.
You went to an acupuncturist? Nigga, let me say the word right. You went to an acupuncturist?
I did.
I said actually.
It was my first time. I was like, I don't know what to expect. But both of them were able to help me a little bit, and I got a little bit more motion and some relief from the pain. I went back to the acupuncturist a couple more times, and I'm going to start seeing a massage therapist, you know, maybe once or twice a month, because I've been needing that shit for years.
Right.
But it helped. And I'm like, okay, so I had to start taking hot baths. I had to sit on like heating pads. I got a pillow behind my back now. Like I've had to, I was doing, well, I had edibles. I had my doctor.
I encourage this behavior tremendously.
My doctor was like, here's some muscle relaxers and some pain relievers. That shit don't work on nerve pain. I'm gonna tell you right now. It just makes you loopy and unconscious. But I was at least unconscious for a while, and that was pleasant. I had to unplug from the internet for the most part. I had to really just say all the shit that aggravates me or upsets me or just gets me kind of worried about the world. I had to let that go. And it feels weird. I can't completely disconnect because my day job has me working on the internet. But
do you even like them people?
My day job?
What do you do for the day?
Oh, so I was like, I don't understand the question. I mean, no, I don't usually like my coworkers. I don't mind my team this time. So I usually work as a health communications person. So that means I'm curating and writing a bunch of content for health information for websites and stuff. But I got like shystered into a job doing data analysis on social media, which and when I tell you, like, the recruiter lied to me to my fucking face.
Of course they did, because they just wanted a hot body in that seat.
Yep. And I get there. I didn't find out what the job was till like the first day I got there, but I didn't find out the job title until the second day I was there. And I'm sitting there like, are y'all fucking what? So it's in a whole
You were like, look at me out here analyzing data.
And they were like, it's not really an analyst position. And I'm like, why am I up here in Excel and in this database and these spreadsheets? What the fuck are y'all talking about? But you know what? I need a job right now. So I'm going to write it and see what happens. And so I was like, I'm going to give it a month. But I was mad.
He was like, y'all niggas got on the job training?
I hadn't not done it before, but I hadn't done it as my main gig before.
Right.
But then like I started and then COVID hit before my month trial was up. And I was like, there is no way I'm gonna be able to find another job during the goddamn pandemic. Like I gotta keep this shit. But thing I like about it now though, I don't like the job, but the thing I like about it is that
that was the answer to my question, but go on.
Before, when you do health communications, if you're a writer, people judge your writing based on how much they like you. And a lot of times I end up working with a bunch of white women and they don't like me.
Don't you think that that's normative anyways for when you're a writer?
Yeah, it is.
But you're saying, especially in the healthcare field,
yes,
that people are like, is this person credible? Do we
it's
even
not
like
even
her?
credible. It's do we like you? You don't have
Is
to be
she
credible.
fat, thus quote unquote equaling healthy? I mean, you know.
Yeah, I know there's been jobs I've been turned down for when I've gotten in-person interviews. Like on the phone, I get hired off rip.
I'll fight them. You just tell me who it was and I'll fight them.
But in person, I would lose out. But anyway, with the data part, the data is the data. It don't matter what that shit say. They can't say the data is wrong because they don't like you. They can nitpick your fucking paragraph all day long if they don't like you.
They gotta send an email to HR about your use of the Oxford comma.
Yeah, but when the data is just the data, and they can't really fuck with you on that. I mean, I've already had two not altercations.
No, call them what they was. They was altercations, because if Becky or Brad had been right there, you would have been.
No, because they didn't talk to me. They reported me to my boss, and I'm like, they thought
that's altercation worthy.
Little bullshit.
Like, just meet me outside. I just want to talk to you about what you reported.
We fucking teleworking. It shouldn't have been happening. Like, we don't even come to the office no more. How the hell are you going to complain about my tone? We don't even interact like that.
Right.
But somehow or other, they complained about my tone. It was really because I set boundaries, and white people hate that shit.
Ooh, they'd be like, "How dare you?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a woman at my job. There's a task that it took her years to even bring to fruition. And now that I'm here, she thinks I should just be able to launch it in a month. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, ma'am, you've been in my position for 5 years. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I get it. So I totally get that. And if I don't totally get it, I can definitely, like, it resonates with me. So I appreciate you saying that. How are you finding joy in the midst of
this fuck shit
a global uprising, a global pandemic, a global deficiency in like human decency? I mean, how are you finding joy in that?
So it's so, like, last week I was talking to a friend of mine, and I used to write a lot about current events. And she would say, "Oh, something's happening. I know if I go to her page, she'll be talking about it." And she's like, "Every time I come to your page, all I see is you in a new wig and some different makeup."
You were like, "Yes, bitch, mind your business."
I am pretty. I'm just gonna be pretty this year. Fuck this.
Right.
I'm gonna dress up and I'm gonna post pictures and be goofy and silly or whatever. And I'm gonna work on different artistic things that I want to work on. I'm gonna prance around in my underwear if I feel like it. I'm gonna shake.
I
my
have on no
for
pants
the camera.
or panties. Go ahead.
I'm gonna shake my titties for the camera, and I'm gonna color coordinate my makeup to my wigs. And that's one of the things that I'm doing. I work on artist projects. And I really am just like, I've been just telling people no to projects. They want me to do something for them. I'm like, not this year. This is not the year for that. And I didn't like, I want to be included in stuff. I want people to say, hey, we want TaLynn there. We want your energy. But this year I can't.
Do you feel like people deserve your energy?
Ooh, that's a rough one. A lot of the times, no.
I just like my job. I mean, that's the only good thing I get out of this, is that when people go, "Ooh, Dee."
Well, I mean, because normally they don't. But I also grew up, I'm a Black woman. I grew up with this responsibility, feeling like I need to put it out there. And some of the stuff I do, I really started doing because I didn't see anybody else doing it. I was like, people aren't having these conversations. And when I was looking for help with this shit, I wish I could have found something that said something for real. So I'm going to write it. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to talk about it. And just, do they deserve it? Probably not, because a lot of people misread it, misunderstand it, think it's a personal attack or some shit. I can't help the fact you don't like what you see in the mirror. It ain't got shit to do with me. I just hold the mirror.
It's a reaction that belongs to other people and not to you.
Right. They need to work it out. That's not my problem. So learning to embrace that part of it and not internalize people's problem with what I'm saying, that was a big part of my growth. It was just, I don't give, like, why should I care how you feel about this? It's not my burden. That's your burden. So
I want to ask you about Breaking Normal, which is a collection of essays about your fat Black geek life. And then you had a follow-up book. Why is it important to talk about intersectionality? And I'm asking this question as I came across a I'm not sure if it was Everyday Feminism or Feminism, the other F word or something like that, whatever. And they were sharing about how Vogue is now putting plus size models on the cover in crop tops. And I look at the model and I'm like, this bitch just tall. She ain't plus size. I mean, like, like, this is Megan Thee Stallion's sister. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just confused. Like, you know, and so like, why is it important to talk about intersectionality in general when we talk about Black spaces?
I mean, one of the hardest things, and this is something I'm still wrestling with. I'm still wrestling with my
Come on, wrestle with it. Wrestle with it.
Identity. Because I'll talk about race, but I won't talk about fat. But I'll talk about fat and I won't talk about race. If I just tell my story, it's all of it. It's right. Being, you know, I say woman, and I'm not going to say I'm non-binary. I believe I've functioned as a woman for like all of my life.
I just want to hug you virtually with your consent. I'm like, these are the conversations we need to be happening. What does the world look like when we strip ourselves of gender? Or if gender wants to still be held by some people, it's like, what do we do when we stir the pot a little bit? Like, what does it look like?
It's weird because I challenged this all my life. I have an older brother, and we were only 3 years apart, and we were so obviously treated differently just because of gender. So I was constantly confronting my parents about it. It didn't make sense. I was a tomboy, like all because I recognized the power of clothing.
Right.
If I dressed like my brother, I had more freedom in the world. If I dressed,
it was like just go, nigga, just go.
Yeah, it didn't matter if I got dirty. It didn't matter if I got like. But if I put on the dress and I got a stain on that dress, it was a problem. I was like, right. Well, I don't need these weird shackles that you have attached to this fucking dress. I just know I have to have something on before I can leave the house.
Like, I'm so ignorant because I'm in the background. Get the shackles off my feet so I can dance. I'm so ignorant. I'm going home. I just want to let you know I'm going home. So I appreciate this conversation in more ways than one. I had a conversation with someone who coincidentally just told me that they have a crush on me, and I'm like, you never said nothing. They was like, no, you left me on red. And then I go to the message and I did leave them on red, but they still never said anything. So anyways, we're talking about the many times that, you know, oh, how could you replace they, or how could it be phonetic? And he's this person is not the only person I've heard this conversation from. I'm like, so don't replace it. Don't be doing extra work. Just call me Didi. And they were like, but you know how many times I would have to say your name? I was like, do you know how many times you say the word she when you're talking about me? Mm-hmm. Like, it's just ingrained in our brain. We don't even like pick it up because it's just there. Like, you know what I'm saying? We lose connection to people when we start addressing their gender. I don't know. That's how.
No, it's true. Like when I started writing, I remember I was like, okay, so I'm gonna have this public persona. I'm gonna have this public identity. I need to decide what lane I want to be in. And I started really thinking about that shit. And I was like, if I actually separate these parts of my identity the way that the media wants you to, the way that consumerism wants you to, capitalism wants you to, then I'm telling lies all over the place because this isn't all of me. This isn't all of me. This isn't touching the overlaps that are happening naturally because I'm a human being. And I'm complicated, like all human beings are.
I'm a human being that's complicated.
So I was like, you just have to get the mess. So like, I read other people's essays because, you know, you try and figure out how you can get published in places. And I write all my essays.
You find out, let me know.
I know, right?
Because I'm about to fuck it. As soon as I find out, I'm about to fuck it up.
Oh, no, I stopped. I actually stopped. I was like,
fuck it.
Because for the most part, every once in a while, if I get an idea that I'm like, this is more commercial, I'll pitch it places and see if it gets picked up. But I was like, I need to be able to express what I want to express, how I want to express it. And it's going to be about me. It's going to be a personal essay because I am the combination of all of these different things. And you have to dig in it if you're going to start to understand it. And the different parts of me are going to speak to different parts of other people, but they'll also help them start speaking with the greater sense of who they are and how they interact with the world. And so I said, I'm just going to have to be messy. And so I would pitch it, and if they wouldn't take it, then I would just publish it on my website.
You were like that. So, okay, I get that too, because like, and at the end of the day, like, when I first started writing, I would be approached by people. And then people, it's so funny that people accuse me all the time of not writing my original thoughts. I'm like, no one wants to publish my shit anyways. So what does it, like, no one gives a fuck. I've been published in Huffington Post, but it's always with, and you're a writer, you know what I'm talking about. There's a barrier. So technically, they didn't publish me. They just shared it from where I wrote it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's to protect CYA, cover your own ass. Like, you know what I'm saying? No one, I wouldn't say people don't take me seriously, but I'm not Soledad O'Brien. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know,
I understand. Like I'm not you. Like, and that's how I feel about it. I'm like,
but I appreciate you bringing that conjecture to this conversation in the first place. Because I mean, if we wasn't able to talk about some real shit, then what is the purpose of the show?
I mean, what's the purpose of talking? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's to communicate things that I need other people to understand. And people act like, no, you're supposed to hide this and whatever. Like, I hated writing for other places because of the editors. And I wrote for the establishment, right? I like the establishment.
How was your experience with the establishment? And so it's on my list to ask you about 2017 versus now. So when did you write for the establishment, and when did you write for the establishment, and what was the topic?
So I used to write for them regularly. I wrote for them in 2017. Oh yeah, I wasn't like a paid writer. Well, they paid me, but I wasn't.
They wasn't even paying their writers, and I'm gonna say they gave me $50.
It wasn't a lot.
I got $50. I got the receipt. I got $50.
I was paid $125 per essay, and I think.
And niggas be like, I wish I was Didi Delgado. Didi be out here working for free, I guess.
And I wrote, honestly, I want to say about 10, at least 10 essays for them throughout 2017.
Wow.
And what I liked most about writing for them, it wasn't the money, because I was like, can't nobody live off this shit. This ain't nothing. They let me keep ownership of my essays. So I kept the copyright, which is important, because there are some places you write for them and they'll be like, we're going to pay you $10 and we own it. And I'm like,
and we're going to edit it and cut it up however you see fit. Right.
Right. They didn't edit my stuff a lot, but the ways that they did edit, it was always like, when I had to start defining Black shit for them. Like, that's where they would get mixed up. Like, I'd say something that another Black person would hear it and they would get it, and I would have to explain it for them. They're like, well, the audience, and I'm like, your audience can look shit up. This is online.
Like, I feel like you're attacking me. I feel personally attacked by this. Really, no, not in a bad way. I won't say the organization, but I recall pitching Befriending Becky. And on the imperative of intersectionality, and niggas did not want to publish it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting, you know, and so I published it, and it was a conversation about audience. The same thing with Yes Magazine, and you know, Tracy and I go back, whatever that means, but it's a conjecture about going back, right? I was like, hey, have this great article. They approached me and they were like, we want you to write a column, $600 a month. And I was like, I don't want to write for y'all, not because I don't think it's amazing, but I was like, timesing it. I'm like, multiply times 12. Like you just said, it's not enough to live off of. So what, that I could say that I was a columnist for Yes Magazine?
Yep.
Like, you know what I'm saying? And so I was like, no, I said, but I will write for you. We'll do a trial run. We'll do the first 600. Boom, boom. I wrote Mark Zuckerberg hates Black people. I sent it to my editor. I sent it to my editor. My editor made a few structural edits, put some lipstick on it, and was like, good to go. Sent it to their editor. It was a Black woman too. And she was like, yeah, so your audience? I was like, my audience is going to come and follow me. Like, all y'all have to do is just publish it. We don't want to be sued. I was on the phone with lawyers. It was wild. And then I published it. And then it was like BBC, Slate, everybody named Mother Jones. Everyone's quoting me now. Yeah. And I told Trace, I said, I know y'all feel goofy as fuck, don't you? Goofy.
They're scared. Sometimes you get some of the worst gatekeeper from Black people who are in, you know, higher positions in white spaces, because they scared it's going to hit them and affect them.
White people were scared of white supremacy. It was the first time I ever saw it. They were like, no, right? They were like, no. We can't publish this under this title because. And I'm like, so if Mark Zuckerberg was to come after you, hypothetically speaking, if he gave a fuck enough about your magazine, if he wants to come after you, you don't think you could use that as a fundraising catalyst or nothing? Okay.
My question for you is, did they ever suggest that you just change it to Facebook as opposed to Mark Zuckerberg?
No, they were like that I should add some sort of conjecture in it that's like, in my opinion, Mark Zuckerberg hates Black people. I was like, no, that nigga hates Black people. And then I was proven correct, not just because of what's been happening with Black activists, with Black trans folks, but his own employees wrote the same letter 3 years later. Yep. Our boss hates all of us niggas. Like, I mean, I can't say it.
Yep. It's so publishing with other people, it's a double-edged sword. Like, you want to get the credentials because that gives you that legitimacy among other white people to kind of see, oh, look, they have this, they have that, they have that. And that's the only reason. Other than that, you know, you could just fucking kick that to the curb because it's useless. But that and the exposure, if it's a big outlet, and I miss the establishment because of this. I would drop an essay on the establishment and it'd be like, you know, 5,000-10,000 people see it and comment or whatever.
Right.
I drop it on
and
my
at least
page.
You had that feedback.
Well, I didn't care about the feedback. Like, I don't have comments on my blog. And
you don't?
No.
I need to get like you, Sib. I need to get like you because I be in the comment section like, report, respond. I've got the time and I don't have the time.
No, I've learned, again, this goes back to that. Your problem with me is not my problem. That's your problem. Your problem with me. So it's none of my fucking business. I don't care what you think of me. This is what I think. This is what I have to say about it. You can read it. You can not read it. I don't give a fuck. You do what you want, but I'm putting it out there and it's there for you if you need it. And that's just how I try to operate now. But that's age. I will say that right now. That is straight up age.
How old are you?
45. So
I'm 36.
Yeah. You reach a point where you're just like, I don't give a fuck.
I just be wanting to fight everybody. But publish it or not, I don't give a fuck. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Medium one time did write to me and they was like, bitch, you can't tell people to steal. And I was like,
that's the downside where you're like, really?
I was like, I didn't say steal. I mean,
but you know, I'm a wordsmith. I can find another way to say it. You know, I don't have a problem with that. I'll get flowery with my shit. In the meantime, it still means break it.
Do you ever feel like something you've said has come to fruition and then everybody else gets the credit for it?
No.
It's just me.
I don't think I'm a futurist like that. I think my power is that
nigga, you do cosplay. You dressed up as futuristic characters.
But no, like, I don't think when I say futurist, I mean like predicting the future. I'm more of what the fuck is happening.
Okay. So basically, long story short, I wrote a letter to the Boston food service workers because Boston Police Association wrote a letter to the Boston teacher. I just was feeling like if everybody gonna be petty, why not join in on the fun, right? And so, like, shit that don't even make sense they was writing about. You can't have Black Lives Matter week in school because Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization, just spewing vitriol, right? And so the Boston Teachers Union, obviously doing what they do, they decided to have it anyway. So I was like, let me write a letter to a food service worker. And like you just said, you're a writer. I was like, and food service workers, give them their just desserts. Now, if you know what I know, that's some shit from the 1500s. Just dessert is give them what they deserve. People, it's literally an open-ended statement. Interpret it anyway. And I see the video, you know, that was last year. People was upset. I got removed from an event. It didn't matter because it wasn't a paying gig. I mean, I was just showing up for a friend, like, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, white people thought they won everywhere. They were like, yes, we silenced her. And she said she would never be silenced. And I was like, my niggas, I'm still talking though. Like, I mean, one. Two, what I think is very funny now, like, ha, 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 is that now it's 2020. There have been all of these police murders, and now police inherently are saying that they're afraid of bodily harm in the form of a food service worker. Do you see that cop?
Yes.
She was a security guard or something like that. She was like, I'm scared to order an egg McMuffin. Like,
goofiest shit ever.
Goofy.
I wish there are things I want to say so bad. I wish they actually had reason to wear it. Like,
and so that's why I think the whole thing is funny, because all I did was suggest that they should get what they're dishing out. If they're spitting on us in the name of justice, whatever, then you should give them what they give. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's interesting because people are now talking about defunding the police, community justice, this, that, and the third. I was like, all I was saying was treat them how they treat us. And I was villainized for it. But everybody else is out here, defund the cops, abolish the police. And I'm like, that's what I was saying.
Well, see, but that, again, you are out there. That's what I really admire about you. Like, I've been watching you for years.
Why y'all niggas come on the show talking about what you admire about me and it's y'all show?
Because I legit was like, okay, when I saw you doing this podcast, I was like, oh, I want to be on it. I want to be on it so bad. Really? I want to be on it.
That's made my day. I had such a shitty day. That's made my day.
I was about to reach out and I was like, nah, you can't reach out. Just let it go. Just let it go.
Then niggas, if y'all want to be on the show, reach out to me because I ain't got no more. I ain't got no more in me.
Wow. Okay. But yeah, I was like, but then you hit me up and I was like, oh shit, she wants to talk to me. Why though? But why? So I had this whole thing of, I don't know what you want to talk to me about. I don't understand. I don't know what to do.
I had no ulterior motive. My show is about like meeting Black folks where they at. Period. Like, you know, I'm tired of, I watched Queen and Slim. Oh, and then I shut it off. And then I went to the wiki page for it. And I was like, I knew this was going to be some bullshit. I couldn't even watch it anymore. It was so stereotypical. And to know that, you know, I'm not going to mention her name, but to know that Homegirl helped direct it, but it was written by a white person. Yeah. Just grinding my gears. So I'm really trying to be like, okay, you know, when I spoke with you today, we took an extra 10, 15 minutes to be like, how are we going to curate the show? I want to do it with my guests. I don't want to be like talking at you or lending for the white gaze so we can both get money or whatever. I just creating content for Black folks, no matter if you're, you know, I don't want to call you Blair. You say Black geek or whatever, right? So it don't matter what your background is. If you want to be privy to this conversation or have more information about it, bang, it's here. You know what I'm saying? So we had 60 plus episodes. I haven't even uploaded them all yet. 60 plus episodes of different people's Black experience since April 9th. So what's that, 15 weeks? You're talking about a COVID informed fucking show. And I'm really proud of all the Black folks I see doing podcasts. I feel like we should be. I just wish that we did support each other more. But I understand the reasons why we don't, or we can't, or we won't. So
I mean, some of it, and this is what I will say, some of it is a little challenging. Right now, I've been like, one of my escapes has been reading trashy romance novels, but I only read like the free ones for my Kindle. Like, I just download a whole bunch of free ones on my Kindle, and then I just go through if I like.
You were like, this shit is free 99.
Right. So it ends up being a whole bunch of white people, right? And their stories are all trash. It's all, oh, y'all just don't talk. Oh, you never rejected anything about your life. You just accepted everything we told you. You made this problem. It's stupid. Which makes it, pardon my friend, that's ableist. It's ridiculous. And that is why I like it, because it's so ungrounded in anything in my life that I can just sit there and look at it.
Do you play any Facebook games?
I do not play Facebook games. I do play a video game called Garden Paws, where I'm a little anthropomorphized animal and I run a little shop and I go and run through the forest. And
nigga, I can't even be mad. Because I'd be out here acting like a gang member on fucking, I don't even know what this shit is called or whatever. It's like Mafia Wars or something. I don't know.
Mafia Wars.
I don't know. I brought it back to MySpace, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Do the violence. Like, I can't do, I learned back in April, I was like, actually it was last year, I was like, I can't do the violent video games.
So you was out here playing Oregon Trail back in like 3rd grade.
I actually, you know what's fucked up about that? I was not allowed to play it.
Why?
Because there was one computer in the room and the teacher would only let the boys touch it.
Where did you grow up at?
Outside Philadelphia.
Outside Philadelphia. Okay.
Like,
Just
right
Just is
outside.
also. Okay. All right. Just is also from Philly or outside Philadelphia.
Yeah. So, but yeah, they wouldn't let the girls touch the computer. Only the
so
guys
you
could
couldn't
touch
get
it.
scurvy because they was only reserving the Oregon Trail for the boys?
I could watch the boys get scurvy.
Look who's on the up now. Look who's on the up now.
I thought back to that and I was like, that it didn't even occur to me that sexism was happening, because you were a kid. You don't realize that shit.
You were like, this is sexism, Mom.
Actually, I would just go off and do something else. And because I was like, fuck it, I don't want to watch them play video games. I'm gonna go build something over here. So I'd go make stuff or work out puzzles. And they'd be like, how'd you figure that out? And I was like, I don't know. This is how you do it though, right? And they'd be like, do it again. And I couldn't do it again because I'm a genius, not a monkey that performs on command. So like whatever. But yeah, that was constant. I mean, because when I look at back then versus now and how things have changed so much, it's a completely different world. It's a completely different way of doing stuff. I went back to grad school in my mid-30s.
Did you like it?
I actually really enjoyed it. It was traumatizing as fuck because I got my master's in public health. And public health is just, it ain't nothing but white saviors running around spouting bullshit. And you're in those classes and all you hear is how they
you didn't even list
blackness.
that. You didn't even list it as part of your credentials.
My MPH? Cause
and nigga, my MPH. Mad sus, Sib. Mad sus.
I don't talk about a lot
you
of stuff.
mean my master's in public health?
No. So okay, now let's even drop this back even further. So my undergrad is from Yale. And
shut up.
Yeah, I don't
Do
talk
you
about
know Joanne Blonde?
No.
I'm gonna tag her in this. I think y'all should get to know each other. Okay.
But yeah, it's one of those I don't talk about it. I learned real quick that when you tell people that's where you went, they were honest, they would instantly judge your life and be like, why aren't you doing shit with your life? And back then I was in a different kind of survival mode. I didn't want to be with my parents.
The whole thing is wild to me.
What's wild?
The whole thing.
Just
that you went to Yale. I just said to Johan.
Because it didn't buy me any social capital in the areas where I wanted social capital. So jobs wouldn't hire me because they're like, you're gonna be bored. And I'm like, but I still need to eat. I can just stay here for a minute. And they're like, you'll leave in 6 months. I'm like, you'll have me for 6 months then. What the fuck?
Right.
Like, so it ends up creating more challenges and
yeah, that's the weird thing about capitalism is that they believe it's like only in if it benefits them and not realizing that your presence could benefit them by you like monitoring their systems or like adding your input or whatever. Like, capitalism teaches white people especially. The longer that you have control of someone, the better.
I actually did not get my first job where people valued my opinion until I was 38 years old. So
you're saying I got 2 more years to get in there like swimwear?
Well, no, you actually have different credentials than I do. People actually value you don't think so?
My nigga, I have a high school diploma.
That's anything
that I have had, I'm not saying I pull myself up by the bootstraps because I pull myself up by hook or crook. I'm like, oh, y'all are in a space? I'm in there too. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, just literally bogarting my way into situations, and people still think I'm overbearing. People think it's abuse. People think like, you know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, I'm out here trying to survive like everybody else. I have a GED that was, modified into a high school diploma through the city of Boston.
And so, and I'm gonna say this, I understand why like that's a problem. That's only because of the gatekeepers. They create all these silly hoops for us to jump through. And if we don't jump through them, they use it as a reason to get rid of us. That's really all it is. Anytime they realize you're a Black person attached to some shit, you're a woman attached to some shit, you're a Black woman attached to some shit, they try to find the way they can get you off of it and they can get rid of you. And that's it. And so, the only thing I got of value from college, and I almost dropped out my sophomore year, like hardcore. Like I called my dad on the phone, crying, having an existential crisis. I was like, the machine, Dad. You can't escape the machine. Even when you think you're not in the machine, and when you think you're not participating, that's still part of the machine. And I don't understand why I'm in college wasting your money so I can be part of this fucked up system that is it's soul crushing. It doesn't do anything for anybody.
What's your sign? Because I'm wondering if Pisces struggle with school.
I'm an Aries. I'm an asshole Aries.
I'm an Aries rising. Okay. I just, I struggle with school, and I, one of my boo things is like, almost stayed back. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like consistently I was always out of school because my mom was sick. Like, we chronically ill growing up. So that's why I appreciated you sharing that with us. Because it's like, you really don't get the narrative that counts. Like, you know what I'm saying? You get other people's ideations of what chronic pain
Yeah,
looks like. So thank you.
it's like, yeah, school to me was, it just proved I could do a task. And that's exactly what my dad told me. He was like, this isn't about necessarily you getting the education, it's about you getting the degree, because that's what people are going to look at and think is important. And
Right.
so just get it done. When you get it done, you can live however you want to live. This is going to be the last thing I ask of you. That was a lie. But, you know,
You was like, really, Pops?
I really
Okay.
believed him because I was gullible back then. But he was like, get it done, and then you'll have this paper that will get you access into different areas. It got me access into administrative jobs, which, I then turned around and was like, I'm gonna learn this skill and that skill and that skill. I was a person who would job hop like nobody's business. I worked at temp agencies, and I would do a week, 2 weeks, maybe a month, pick up some new skills, so that shit on my resume, ask for $1 more an hour the next gig. And I just kept doing that until I got to something where I was like, okay, I can live at this amount and still, I'm a client liaison. It's not an important job or anything like that. It doesn't sound special, but it pays all my bills. I can live the life I want to live. I got my internet. I can get ass when I want it. I'm good.
I want to get ass when I want it.
2020, a whole different thing. I couldn't get ass in 2020, like if I was single. Like that would be a whole other, this is, woo, God, this is awful.
Oh, the ghetto, the ghetto, the ghetto.
Oh, but yeah, but the school thing, like when I went into school, when I went there, I was like, I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna join a sorority, I'm gonna make friends with
You
all these
wanted
white
to join a
people.
sorority?
I wanted to meet white people who were gonna have future power, so I could leverage those relationships and then be able to get ahead somewhere. Got there, realized I couldn't stand none of them people. I was a fucking hood rat. I was openly a hood rat. I couldn't deal with shit. I barely talked to the people I roomed with. I was just like, whatever. Like, I made friends, but the people who I was dealing, like most of the people there wouldn't even fuck with me because I didn't realize that they were them 10%er type black people. Like they were the elite black people. I didn't know what Jack and Jill was. I had never heard of that shit. And I was like, and I'm running around in my sweatpants and my Philly hat that was bedazzled. You remember the bedazzler? Were you alive when the bedazzler existed?
Is that the thing you put jewels on your vagina?
No, that's the vajazzler. The bedazzler was the one you did on your clothes. So like,
that's not important.
But yeah, like it was just, I had a whole idea of what I thought I was going to do, and I just wasn't that person. I could not be that person. I couldn't pretend to like people who I thought were fucking assholes. And there were a lot of assholes there.
There were a lot of them.
And so when I went to grad school, I was like 15 years later, and that was a whole different experience because I was there to learn what I wanted to learn. And but it was traumatizing because, like I said, everything was, now we're going to watch this video on, Black women's mortality, in childbirth.
You're like,
right. I didn't even know that shit. I didn't know. I mean, I didn't want kids, but I was like, man, like, these are people I know, and y'all were talking about this shit like it is
right.
nothing, and you keep making it out like it's their fault, and that was constant in everything. So I would come home from class crying. I would do my homework crying. Like I was like, this is just some rough shit, and it just made me realize that public health needs a lot of work. I got in trouble one of the classes because they were in there spouting all kinds of nonsense, and I was like, that shit's racist, that shit's sexist, that shit's sizist. All y'all gotta work on your shit. Y'all shouldn't be saying this stuff, and you're perpetuating this now. And this is supposed to be higher learning, and all I hear is people who aren't thinking for themselves and drawing the wrong
thinking
conclusions.
critically.
Yeah. Right. So it was rough, but I really love being in learning environments. I wish I didn't have the grading part, but I love being in the environment.
I just like being right. So it's so funny that you said.
I mean, own it.
I mean, that's my toxic trait. I have to be right. So, but usually I don't speak up unless I already know that I'm right. So there's that. And that's why I talk often, because I'm often right. So there's that. All the things, right? So I felt cheated out of the college experience because I went to a school for that had like adult learning. And even though like I stayed up for 3 months, kids don't do this at home. I was borrowing my friend's Adderall prescription, and I was just like up because I work full time.
Mm-hmm.
These white people literally be like, get a job, and I'm like, I hate my job, can you take it please? Like, what I'm saying? Like, so I work full time, Egypt's mom full time, trying to run a business, also in the full time, and trying to be an artist and myself and not forget who I am. I decided to take some courses, and I found out that I could rack up a whole bunch of points based on my experience or credits.
Mm-hmm.
So in a 3-month time period, I earned 75 credits. I mean, boom, was banging them out, banging them out, banging them out. Thankfully, a whole bunch of people were on Team Didi and helped me compile all the places I had been. And now I have a curriculum vitae, all that shit. I was just out here doing shit for free for people a lot, but it helped me in more ways than one. And last thing I'll say is I have to shout out to Daisy October, because she's just an amazing person, and she always has been in my corner, and I appreciate her. So yeah, I went to school, and I felt like, oh, this is how you this is how you submit stuff, and oh, I get graded, and oh, it's valid. Now I only have 19 credits left, and I feel like I'm enrolling in a dual master's program that's going to take me 18 months, and it's MSW and MPH. And I wanted to do it because I feel like there's not enough Black representation in either of those demographics. But also what you just said about feeling like this is torturous, and also these white people are just very ridiculous because most of them are not going to give it. A lot of people think that if you're an MSW or you work in public health, that you understand Black plight and struggle, and no, you just studied it. Like, what I'm saying? You'll never understand it unless you are Black, or two, you've been Black and poor, or been Black and been held back by social determinants of health, which is most Black folks. So I don't know. I think that's commendable that you're in public health, or that you have a master's in public health. And I know it took some struggle and sacrifice, because I have a lot of sleepless nights, and I'm just finishing my bachelor's. A bitch from Roxbury who wasn't supposed to have nothing. I'm finishing my bachelor's. So
it wasn't so. I was fortunate, but also I got a lot of debt. So I'm paying on the back end. Like, I was able to do it. I went back to school because I got laid off from my job. This was back in 2008, 2009, when this little recession hit.
And the little recession. Can't you wait for the big one? It's coming.
Right? Like, are we not in it? Because I feel like we're in it, but it's going to also get worse. But this is worse than what it was in 2008 by far. And so as a result, like I said, since I'm getting unemployment, I can get my expenses real low, live off unemployment, and then go to school. But I had to take out loans for school. That's what I ended up doing. And I regret taking out the loans, but I don't really regret the degree, because the degree got me into better paying jobs, into more credentialed spaces, and all of that. And so I don't worry about finding jobs anymore. It might take a few months, but I don't worry about it.
So I want to segue into a conversation I've been dying to have with you. You're like, like all my little Haitian boos be like, So we don't have to get into specifics, because I do believe in taking what was learned from the lesson with us, and like leaving all the other bullshit behind. But I got a message the other day, and it was a Black woman. The Black woman had never reached out to me a day in her life. And, she was throwing around her credentials. She was throwing around her mama credentials, or whoever she's related to, who's a professor, and this, that, and the third. And she was like, I don't like your white facilitator. And I was like, bitch, I don't like her neither. I mean, like, what do you want me to say? Like, what do you want me to say? Like, what I'm saying? And she was like, this program that, my aunt developed, or whoever the person was, I think it was another professor. This professor developed. I look up the professor. I'm not judging anyone's Blackness. People will look at me and clearly be like, you're mixed, you're Latina, you're whatever, right? But I was like, this can't be life. Like, what I'm saying? Like, do you, but you can't come to me as another Black femme and be like, And at the end of the day, what are you doing out here with white people? Because we don't do that to each other when we have to clock into a 9 to 5 or a 10 to 6 or a 7 to 3. Like, you know what I'm saying? We don't do that to each other. But when we decide to branch off and become our own bosses, it's like the chin check comes or whatever. And something I did to you that I want to apologize for, like, is that I judged you harshly after I was ousted from a Facebook group in which I had done tremendous amount of not only emotional labor but physical labor by growing the group in the first place. And I noticed that after I left, and several of the Black women had been removed or ousted in some way, shape, or form, that they had honored you as the person. I was like, it's like an episode of Get Out, like, you know what I'm saying? And I think I might have said that to 2 or 3 people. And so I just want to apologize to you and take it off the table and say, or put it on the table, whatever, and say that I shouldn't be judgmental of the ways in which you survive, I survive. Like, I wouldn't want, like, getting this message yesterday, I really realized, I was like, wow, you're clearly questioning whether this white woman pays reparations, but all the proceeds from the class just came to me and my pocket, thus sustaining the ecosystem that I run over here. Like, you know what I'm saying? For me, my family, and community at large. And so I didn't even answer the woman question. And so what is it about, bring it back, what is it about the rat race for equity that a lot of times we don't see the forest from the trees, and we're willing to throw each other away or to quickly and harshly judge one another for being like at the table of whiteness, when we all have sold out in some way or the other, for resources. And even if it's not selling out, it's like surviving. So like, to me, selling out is surviving. Like, everyone got a price tag, everyone, like, you know what I'm saying? So
I mean, I think that's a very complicated, like everything though, it's a complicated question, because I think we, like you said, we all do things to cater to whiteness, that center whiteness in order to survive in this. That's
even when we say we don't, if you work at a corporation, or you're part of a board or a committee of people and there's all white people, you're working under the white gaze. You might bring a Black experience, but you're working under the white gaze.
Right. And you're censoring yourself in some way, somehow, or they're controlling you in some way, somehow. You are being used as, that's the way the system is set up. There are no good choices for us. They're not. I mean, that's just a very harsh reality that people don't like to accept. But there are no good choices. We are making choices as to what's going to be the least disastrous, what's going to be the least harmful, what can we benefit from that does the least amount of harm, hopefully. Then you have other people who come in and be like, I don't give a fuck what kind of harm it causes other people. I'm just going to go where I'm going to go, and I'm going to get as much as I can. Right. I judge those motherfuckers. I judge them harshly. I don't fuck with them. Those are the people where I'm like, take them out. Like, I keep a lot of space for Black women intentionally, and Black gender non-conforming, is it mages?
Yes, shout out to Michonne Neal for that terminology, marginalized genders. Yep.
So I keep space for Black marginalized genders intentionally, because I know our choices are we have a lot less choices in the things that we do, and a lot less opportunities, and are judged a lot more harshly and discarded a lot more easily. But then, when I watch people that are willing,
look at what's going on with Meg Thee Stallion.
Yeah,
I love Aisha B's take on it. She was like, y'all was literally out here not giving a fuck about Meg Thee Stallion. But when Kanye came out, so everybody was like, he need an intervention.
Yeah. I'm like, she got shot, and y'all are blaming her for not recognizing that this is the kind of guy who would shoot her. Did you
see the woman who was like, I couldn't help it, I commented, I never comment on people's bullshit, but I commented, I was like, what in the light skin bullshit is this I'm reading? She was like, well, y'all out here sitting here saying y'all savages, and sometimes you run into a savage ass nigga. And then, like, I see Black men on the internet, not all Black men, my husband didn't take part in it, but you see Black men on the internet talking about, now bitches is getting shot, like, and it's not funny, it's not a joke, you know what I'm saying? Like,
it's ugly. And I don't know, like, getting the bag is a very white thing. Like, and unfortunately, that is the survival mechanism in this country. But it's very fucking white, and you're going to have to cater to whiteness. You're going to have to center it in a lot of aspects of your life.
Because
It's
getting
going
the
to
bag is rooted in capitalism. And I'm,
exactly.
as a bitch who loves to quote that I'm in my bag and in his too, it's related to capitalism. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that there's hard limits. I think there's lines. I think that there are people who are knowingly saying, I don't give a fuck about the other Black people who are going to be harmed by this shit, and they do it. And there are other people who are malicious about it, who
Right.
sit back and say, I did it, so they should be able to do it too. And that's a different category. But the rest of us who are just like, look, listen, I can't actually live if I don't have a place that I can pay for, and if I don't have food, and if I don't have medicine. Like, I have to be able to get these necessary things, and it is required that I have money to do that shit, which means I gotta sit at this table with these nasty white bitches that I don't like and listen to them say ignorant ass shit about Black people that they think they know about because they got their MPH too. Like, and you check them, but you have to be careful about how you
And you
check
can,
them.
yeah, that's what I was about to say. A lot of people, if I share a story, people be like, couldn't have been me. I'm like, bitch, I know it's you every day.
Yes.
I know it's
Yes.
you every day. It's about a different topic, but I know it's you every day. And I'm trying to be a better person in 2020, so I just don't say nothing.
I,
Can I have a Reese's peanut butter cup, please, Ada? I'm
I
really in the
think
mood
that
for chocolate.
I understand. I think that a lot of the judgment about it, though, is that people don't like the parts of themselves that they see in it. They don't
It's
like
a
the fact that they
mirror.
have to go.
It's a
Exactly.
definitely mirror.
And
Because
if
people
you,
are like, oh, how you out here surviving white supremacy by being friends with white people? And then like be in the photos. I saw a girl, I'll never forget it. Thank you, baby. I saw a girl, she was Black Lives Matter, everything, fuck these white people, and every single photo on her IG page.
with white people.
I mean, if you want to call it that, I just say I see you surviving, sis. I'm
I mean, and I'm not even one front. My husband's white. He's white.
Mhm.
That shit
If this
has.
husband don't work out and then the nigga I got lined up behind him don't work out, I'm going white all day. I don't give a fuck what nobody got to say because ain't nobody paying my bills.
I mean, it wasn't. This is a choice I interrogate a lot because sometimes I'm like, why would I choose
Come
this
on,
shit?
interrogation.
But I mean, like, why would I choose this? Because literally, when they started letting the states roll back the regulations for COVID,
Mm-hmm,
people were able to go out
mm-hmm,
again, and there were articles coming out about these white people being like, "Oh, well, I mean, you see who it's really affecting. It's not us." I read that shit and I started crying, and I went to him. I was like bent over in pain, and I'm like, "How are y'all like this? Why would I
mm-hmm.
choose to have someone who comes from this shitty ass culture as someone I'm sharing a life with? Like, what did I? How did I fuck up and make this choice to be with you? Your people are monsters." Like, I don't talk to his parents; they're fucking Trump supporters. I don't talk to his sister. I
You want
like
to
none
fight
of
her?
them.
I'll fight her.
No.
Okay.
I think
Let me stay out your family, but
they just over there, and they can stay the fuck over there, and I don't deal with them. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm
they're the
like,
type of people to like their makers Martinique.
man, they are some interesting, awful folks, and they not bright either. Like, I don't know how he I don't know. In a weird way, I'm like, you would throwback. You got the genes before they inbred all the intelligence out, but that sounds
Do you
horrible
ever
and
feel
ableist
like?
too.
Do you ever feel like Black women, especially, this is me about to take off my bra. Do you ever feel like Black women, especially, feel like they have the ability to judge you based on your interracial relationships? I feel like the reason why I asked that is because I briefly dated a white boy. Briefly. And I felt like I was like, does everybody know? Because I see all these subliminal statuses that I know that they were dedicated to other Black women who are dating white men or white women or whoever, right? And so what does it look like to keep your Blackness intact without having to define your Blackness all the time to not only your white partner, but to other Black folks who feel like now they have the end to your relationship,
You know,
that feels so good.
and I put mine on specifically for this interview. So.
Fuck this interview. It's hot as it's 85 degrees.
Yeah, I don't know how you survive it. It's 74 in my house. I got on a long sleeve shirt because I stay cold. But I don't feel like anybody has the right to judge me. They're going to. It's human. That's what we do. We judge each other. I think that we need to interrogate why we feel the need to judge each other, what it is we're judging for. I think for Black people and Black marginalized genders, judging people is actually part of a survival mechanism. We have to be able to assess if you are going to be safe or not.
It's like a trauma response. You're like,
it is. But I mean, we say it's a trauma response, but I mean, not that shit is real. Like, people who come out to other people have been harmed. They've been murdered for it. So you have to constantly do this threat assessment with people, which means you're constantly judging people. I think people should look at me with the same lens. When you are this close to whiteness, it's very easy to become corrupted by it. I could have been like, oh, and because people gaslight you into it like hell. Like, they'll just be like, oh, you need to be the bigger person. You know, you can teach them. They just don't understand what they're doing. I'm like, they grown. Right. They raised 2 fucking grown ass kids. They know what they're doing. Right. No. Like, you have to set your own boundaries. I'm like, y'all can judge me all the fuck you want. I'm gonna just do what I do. And before I was with him, it wasn't like I was out here, you know, only fucking with white people. I fuck with people who treated me well. I treat people the way they treat me. So a lot of people go away.
We're not even gonna get involved in the relationship conversation.
Well, yeah, if you treat me bad, I treat you the same, and then they go away. So, and if you treat me well, I treat you well, and that it just naturally shakes out. And so the people who are around me, who are close with me, are there because they were good to me, just like I'm good to them. And the people who aren't, I mean, they earned that shit. So I never questioned my Blackness. I just never did.
We was talking about the Robin Hood analogy earlier today, or whatever. You know, because anytime I have an argument with Crystal, it's not an argument, but anytime we have a discussion and we get like really powerful about it, we're like, no, let's go live about it, you know. And I was just like, you know, it's interesting because I know that you're very much into geekyhood. And what if Black folks had a superhero that could defeat white supremacy, who would it be and why?
Did you just make up that question, or was that on your list?
I sure enough fucking did. I sure enough fucking did.
Honestly, if I was going to come up with that, I swear to you, like, for me, I think that superhero already exists, but it's not human. It needs to be human. I think it's the fucking sun. I think the hero is the sun. That shit, I put my husband out on the porch for like 20 minutes and he come in a whole new shade of red I ain't never seen. That shit killed him. It is his weakness. And I wish that, you know,
white people are like, it's so hot, I can't bear it.
It's not even the heat, it is just the rays of the sun literally cooking them way faster than it cooks any of us. And so, you know, it's so funny that whiteness always aligns itself with the light when the light literally destroys them. Because seriously, the dark is where they're strongest. Like, they can't be in the light, and yet somehow or other they have decided that that's where they belong and that's their domain, and it's not. So, you know, it would kind of be, I guess, a humanized form of the light. That would be kind of cool.
Thank you for that. Because I was thinking about how you wrote an article. Basically, it was like, I don't fuck with you, whatever. You wrote
all my articles are, I don't fuck with you.
Okay, so like, you know, I'm trying to remember what was the title of the article because I didn't write it down. It was like, I can love you without forgiving you.
Oh, fuck forgiveness. That's like the one I just wrote. Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like skimming through and I was like, yeah, fuck forgiveness. I know, but also we need it. And also, like, you can choose when to engage in it. My thing is that I feel like often, you know, Nava has this poem called Love You to Death. And it was like, it is love that often turns heroes into villains. And that's why we began talking about this topic. You know, you can be in love with someone and they can be your hero the entire time you love them. And I mean, like, love, like, it doesn't have to be a romantic love. It could be a platonic love. But as soon as they do something villainous, like something normative of all the infrastructure that we have as humans, like as flawed individuals and human beings, it's like, how dare you? Like, you know, and I think a lot of times people label disappointment or mistrust or annoyance as harm. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've seen people make a stretch. You know, it's interesting because I saw that Adrienne Maree Brown is having this conversation at the same time, like multiple people are having this conversation, and I appreciate what she said. That I realized that the quote, I didn't give a context to it, I just posted it and it turned into something, but I'm learning from even the things it turned into. And I was like, what grace. And also, it couldn't have been a dark skinned Black person who would have said some shit like that. I mean, let's just be honest. So, but I do think about like what I said today. I was like, you know, Robin Hood is one person, fictional character or not. Robin Hood is one person, and to somebody, he's an outlaw. He's the decrepit. He's the thorn in the side, and to an entire group of people, he's everything. You know, and then I think about his merry men. You know, Crystal said it so succinctly. Like them niggas all had names, but they wasn't known as Sir Lancelot. They was known as this nigga's merry men. They wasn't known as Briar, Little John, or Friar Tuck, or whatever. Yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? They was known as the merry men. And I was like, and merry men are sort of like disciples. They will always be good until somebody realizes I could be like this nigga Jesus. I could be like this nigga Robin Hood. No, be yourself, man. Like, that's how y'all get lost in y'all's shine. And I wonder, when you wrote this article, fuck you, I don't forgive you. I mean, when you wrote the article, do you sit with a complexity about harm that people have caused you and what your part may have been in it? Or if you were totally absolved from the harm, like how, you know, I don't know.
No, so here's the thing.
Tell me.
We have to get rid of the false binaries. We have to get rid of that.
I've been trying to get rid of these motherfucking binaries.
You've got to. There are like we haven't even stopped looking at shit as linear. It's not linear. It's not this scale of good versus evil and that these acts outweigh each other and so forth. You can be a completely totally shitty person all the time and then have this one moment where you're awesome to somebody. And right. it is complex. It's complicated. I had a boss like that. I had a boss who went out of her way. She would terrorize me. She would ask me if I went to the bathroom. She wanted to know where I was. She asked me to report what I did every 15 minutes so that she knew what I was doing all day. And she did it to a lot of other people. She was just a terrible boss. And then my father died. And she, he was in the process of dying. And she gave me this talk about needing to let him go. And it was the most humanizing talk because my dad was holding on.
Bitch, why can't you always be like this? Because you're a villain, but right now you being a superhero.
Right. And that was what I needed to hear so that I could go and be with him and let him go. And then I got back and, she wrote me up 3 weeks later for being too sad in the office. She's a fucking monster.
I'll fight it. So it's kind of like not the Professor X nigga, but the other one, Magnesium. What is his name?
Magneto.
I only date niggas who are Black nerds. This is not who I am. So anyways, Magneto, I think inherently that nigga wasn't evil. I think he was the same as Professor X.
I think Professor X is actually the bad guy.
All I'm saying is when you try to keep the superhero persona going, you gotta get a little devilish with it. You gotta get a little villainous.
So have you ever seen the movie 30 Days of Night? It's a vampire movie.
If you inbox it to me, I will watch it tonight, actually.
I'm going to spoil it for you. I'm about to spoil the fuck out of it.
It was like,
I love this movie. I love this movie because it basically the good guy in the movie had to literally become the monster to save the people who were left, to save the survivor. He had to, and that spoke to me on such a deep level. Every time I think about, being able to imagine a new world, a new society where it's not these hierarchies, these social hierarchies, where it's not this exploitation, where it's not this genocide that is just encoded into everything that we do. And I try to imagine what it would be like to live in that. I realized that I have had to incorporate too much of the monster to actually survive and thrive and be good for that society. I couldn't live there. And if I truly became the monster I needed to become to fucking wipe it out, I truly couldn't live there.
You just hit the nail on the proverbial head of the coffin. I don't even know what the sentence was I just said, but I have a big problem with colloquialisms when I'm drinking. So anyways, is that I think about it all the time. You have it with Dracarys. I mean, with Daenerys Targaryen,
Mhm.
right? How like she inherently started off as the superhero. She was the people's champ. And then like she was like, no, y'all niggas gotta stay loyal and slaved to me, and didn't realize she was saying, or did and didn't care
Mhm.
because power was too much. I think about someone like Luke Cage. I think about the Flash, whatever the nigga's name was in real life, Barry Antelope or Barry Antelope, man, whatever. So
Allen,
like, you know
Barry
what I'm saying?
Allen.
Barry Allen, like, you know what I'm saying? Like all these niggas or whatever, right? Basically, y'all was out here starting off very well. And then as soon as someone destroyed you, you don't think hurt people turn around and don't hurt people and you're like, let me just love the community back together. No, like we out here, we're destroying, we're breaking, we're building, like, and it all can be done. Like a lot of people, I think, feel like, I'm not saying abuse, I'm just saying harm. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like
It's
my
this work
eyelash
is
coming into
hard.
my eye is harmful. Like, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like,
And I get what you're saying. People don't like shit that hurts them. And what they don't realize is that in order for you to grow, unfortunately, you got to realize we live in a predatory society. Just it world, but definitely the society. It is we feed on each other constantly. That is the definition of success. Who are you willing to bury in order to get ahead? That is what we do. And you have to recognize that is a part of how we are socialized. It is how we interact with each other. So we are the problem also. And in order to recognize that, we have to face some uncomfortable things about ourselves, some things we're not going to like about ourselves. And we can't
somebody
hate
tag
ourselves for
Adrian
that
Murray
shit.
Brown in this conversation, please. Okay,
But
like,
you
and I'm
can't
just
hate
saying
yourself
to
for
add it
it.
to her nuance of conversation she's been having generally. People have been having this conversation in her thread, and I didn't get to it yet because I done drove all the way up here from Clifton Park. I'm so annoyed. But anyways, this conversation has been amazing. And I didn't think it was gonna go like this. So can you tell me what the fuck cosplay is? No, I really didn't. Can you tell me what cosplay is? Because I don't know. I know that one time I dressed up as Whitney Spears. It was Whitney Houston met
Britney
Britney
Spears.
Spears. Their photo's still on the internet. And I enjoyed myself thoroughly. There was the
That's
time that
cosplay.
is it?
Yeah. Yes. So everyone wants to, it's costume play. That's literally it.
So that's what the shit stands for?
Yes.
Y'all heard that? Cosplay is costume play.
Yep.
Now, why do you think that there are levels to cosplay?
Because people create hierarchies because we don't know how to fucking just live and let live. So we always try to make fucking rules and standards and stuff. You can just sit back and say, I hate that ugly shit and keep it moving. I don't think they worked hard on that and keep it moving. But we always have to make it into a contest and compare and contrast and decide who's going to be the best. It's nonsense. It's actually one of the more toxic aspects of our society. So that's why. But me, like,
most cosplayers belong to the streets. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, to a certain extent. And don't get me wrong, I judge motherfuckers too. I see some people and I'm like, you bought that shit. It looks good on you. The only reason why it looks good on you is because we like your body type.
Right. Okay. I see
but,
what you're saying.
But there are other people who make stuff. And I mean, there are engineers who build costumes. Like it became this huge thing where there are like people who professions is constructing and architecture and all kinds of stuff who make costumes. And if you try to compete with that, you're going to get depressed. So why even fucking
are
do
you
that
saying
shit?
that costume play is about, is there like, okay, we know that there's like capitalism involved or whatever, right? But is there a premise for it just to be about fun and enjoyment?
Yes, that's how I got into it. But
yes,
of course, the more people got involved in it, the more it became, we have to start creating categories and hierarchies and separating and saying what's good and what's not and what's going to be popular and what's not.
Is the white girl who's on OnlyFans acting as if she was a puppy, is that cosplay?
Yes. So you can sexualize it if you want. You can not sexualize it. You can keep it for just kids. You can make it just, for me, it's my own creativity.
I'm into Naruto porn, so it doesn't matter. I mean, whatever.
I mean, people approach it however they want to approach it. It's
right.
And you define what it is for you. A lot of people hate that idea, but I mean, because we want to have people want to have a cohesive community and you want to define the boundaries of that. But the reality is, there's not really boundaries to humanity and what we can and can't do and what we should and shouldn't do. We experiment with a whole lot of different stuff and a lot of things we learn not to do by accident. Like
Right.
we fuck something up and we're like, okay, that was a mistake. Like the people who accidentally killed their pets with, the fumes from the products they were using. They didn't know. But you make it what you want it to be. For me, it was a way that I could create art and literally make myself the art. So I make stuff and put it on me, and I walk around and I am a piece of art at that point that I created. This was my vision, close to it, that I wanted. And it was also a way to be seen. I was surprised. I didn't think people would notice me when I went to my first convention, and I was actually trying not to be noticed. I just wanted to be dressed up and have fun. And people were like, no, let's get a picture. Let's hang out. This is cool. I love what you're doing. I was like, whoa, all this attention.
You're like, it's me.
Right. And I'm like, I like this attention. I forgot I like this attention because I'd gotten used to making myself as small and visible as possible in spaces so I can stop being the target. Now I'm like, fuck it. I'll be as big as I want. Come look at me. I don't give a fuck what you think. I'm going to do what I do. Right. So a lot of my growth has been through just defying conventions by being a grown-ass woman who wants to dress up and hang out in costume.
I love it. I love it. Well, and you've been on like every single major news outlet. And I was really interested and intrigued that you had been interviewed on the Curvy Fashionista with Marie Dene. And I only know Marie Dene because I used to be a plus size blogger. So, I mean, I'm still a plus size blogger. I'm pushing 283 right now. Thank you, COVID. But they just don't understand that under both of these stomachs is all this fat cat. Like, you know what I'm saying? But what I wanted to say, Ada was like, I hate it here. But what I wanted to say to you is like, what was that experience like? She's such an amazing person. Like she's been consistently an amazing person. And like, maybe, I don't know, for you, it wasn't amazing, but like, what was your experience like? I feel like you've been touted by all of these outlets and you're still so humble. Like, that's why I've enjoyed this conversation thoroughly.
Well, thank you. I just like having fun. But no, I reached out to her because she's local. She's in Atlanta, and I wanted to be a part of it. So, and Shanice Lewis, who also has her own podcast. She's a Black woman plus size beauty pageant winner and podcaster. So, and has been doing this since the 90s, I believe. Now she's like, don't out me with my age, but I don't know. Anyway, she's really cool. And I had met her at another convention, and she said, you should, if you're really interested in, pitching something to her, I think Marie's interested in having cosplay at, her Curvy Fashionista Style Expo, which is a fashion show and expo thing that was held in Atlanta, Georgia. And she was on her like 4th year at the time. So I pitched it and she was down with it because she said, I have a lot of Black women who are geeks and we're just a lot of followers who are geeks. It wasn't just Black women, and she was like, making it a cosplay safe space would be really cool. So we did it the first year and it was like just a little panel. Last year, it was last year, we had a fashion show.
Oh, wow.
There where we did a runway walk and all of that. And it was really cool. Anybody who wanted to dress up could take part. But I invited a lot of local Black cosplayers to just come and do it. And it ended up being a lot of fun. So no, she's got great energy, really, really chill. She's very California, which is just laid back.
No, extremely California. I've been following her for a long time. So thank you so much. So this is the part of the interview where I ask each and every single one of my esteemed colleagues the 2-pronged question, because I am a complicated individual. And the first question is, what question or topic, if any, are you surprised that I didn't ask you about? Or do you feel like we're at the end of the segment and you're like, oh shit, we never talked about this? And then the second part of that question is, who would you like to see on the show if you watch the show at all?
Okay, so I watched the show. Let's see. So no, because you got to cosplay. I'm glad you didn't ask me the question of, so what got you started in cosplay? Or what's your favorite cosplay? Like, I stopped answering that question like 3 years ago because I was like, all y'all ask the same shit, and I'm tired of trying to make this story interesting.
Thank you. I'm just trying to get to know people as well as their professions. I feel like There was only one person I think I didn't engage that with, and it was because I was nervous. But I tried to like make sure that people are seen. Oh, so I appreciate you saying that because I purposefully did not want to ask you anything about cosplay that you don't want to offer up. So
I hate that question so much. Because it's boring. And honestly, I always tell people go and look at interviews of cosplayers and read the answers that they give to that question because it's the wackest shit ever.
right.
It's always terrible. Like always. People don't know how to tell stories. And as far as wait, what was the second part? Was it
who would you like to see on the show?
Okay, because I actually was thinking about this. So
really?
one of them, one person I would like to see on the show is Chana Lawson. She is CC the Geek. Yeah, because she changed it. It used to be CC the Greek Geek, but now it's CC the Geek. She's a cosplayer out of DC. And she's an activist and has been. And I've invited her on panels. She actually shocked me on the first panel because she revealed, like, right at the beginning that she had been the victim of sexual assault. And I was like, well, I didn't think it would get this deep this fast, but thank you for sharing that. And now we can really have these conversations because you're talking to people who have experience and are open about these, traumas, but they want to help other people heal from them. And that's why we're in this space.
Right, of course.
So she's awesome. And the second one is, gosh, I only know her by her handles, Queen, but like she goes by Queen, and she's on the podcast. Queen. I'm gonna hook you up with. I'll connect you. I'll send you who she is. She's on the podcast called Tea with Queen and Jay. And honestly, both Queen and Jay, Janicia, would be great guests on here. But
that's so funny because they have like had me on the show emotionally. I would say emotionally. Okay.
They're awesome. I know Queen has her own site that she is running. It's man, now I feel bad that I am blanking on the name of it, but like where she publishes essays and stuff from a lot of other different people. She's been holding workshops in New York for, being able to affirm who you are and being comfortable with yourself and envisioning what it is that you want in the future. They celebrated Juneteenth. Their podcast is like actually very well known now. I think they do a lot of really positive work and they're not scared to call people out. And I say call people out. People always interpret that in a really negative way. And what I mean is they call the truth what it is. They just say what it is. That's it.
I appreciate the call out I experienced here. Can I have more alcohol, please? I tried to evade it, but you kept bringing it back. So I was like, I guess I'm going to listen. Do you have any constructive criticism for me? I promise I will not interrupt you.
Constructive about how this goes? Or just you as a human being? No, because so one of the things, the way I like to navigate the world is I just want you to be who you are. Do your thing. If I can't deal with something, that's for me to figure out what it is and why it bothers me and if it's something that I need to say something about or not. And a lot of times it's just me. So it don't matter. You know what I mean? Like you don't need to know, any goofy opinions about like it doesn't make sense. I want people to be who they are. When I hire artists to do work for me, I'm like, I'm hiring you because I like your art style. I want you to do your style. This is just what I want you to depict in your style. Like, be who you are. So I would criticize you if you got close to my boundaries and I was like, nah, and then you kept pushing. You don't do that. That would be my limit.
Okay.
In all of it. So yeah.
Thank you so much. This has been, I can't believe it. Like literally we've an hour and a half. I'm like, where's the time? I feel like more time, but I really enjoyed this conversation. I appreciate your feedback. And I just want to thank you for appearing as a guest on The Full Set. This has been another wonderful episode of The Full Set.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Again, I'm still sitting here like, why? But it was fun. I had a good time. So
thank you so much. TaLynn, I hope that y'all have a good night. I hope everyone watching has a good night. And I keep saying you'll get the episode in about a week, but I'm so backed up. So please just stay on me and be like, bitch, where's my episode or whatever. Like that's more helpful to me than like people just give me the side eye or passively aggressively liking my status. Like, yep, still haven't got my episode. So I appreciate it. I hope that you have a good night and enjoy yourself, okay?
Thank you. You too.
Peace, y'all.